Alrighty, so in this last video, we're going to finalize our calculation logic. So first, we want to be able to prevent multiple operators from being inputted, and then we actually want to run the calculation with our first value, operator, and our second value. All right, so first up, we want to prevent multiple operators. So if we check out our page and we press 7, and then we press an operator, and we keep pressing operators, we can see that we're continually calling the useOperator function, and we're adding more and more operators, which we don't want. We only want one operator at a time. So we can jump back to our code and take care of this. So we want to add a conditional statement at the top of our useOperator functionality. So right below our constant for current value, we're going to comment out a title. This is going to be to prevent multiple operators. To accomplish this, we're going to use an if statement and a return statement like we did in our decimal function. In this case, if we already have an operator value, and so we're going to use 2 ampersands, so this is shift 7 and our awaiting next value Boolean is true, then we want to just return, meaning we are not going to run the rest of the function here. Okay, so let's save that and check it out. So we're going to see that we have 7 plus. So we have the value here, we have our plus here, but now if we press minus times divide, we can see that we're not going through the rest of the function. However, if we switch to a number and then we add in an operator, we can see now that it is running back to the function and we are updating our operator. All right, perfect. Now we're finally ready to set up the calculation itself. So we're going to jump back, and in our else statement in the operator function, we actually want to be able to console log everything. So what we're going to do is we are going to change this console log to log our first value, comma, our operator value, comma, and then our current value. We can now also delete our other consoles here at the bottom. And we want to now check and see in the browser if we're getting all 3 of our values. So let's save that and jump over. Okay, so if we do 7 plus 1 and then we press equals, we can see that we have our first value, our operator, and our second value. Awesome. So we're passing in the 3 things we need to actually run our calculation. So now we can jump back and actually do something with these values. So above our operator function, we are going to create an object, a calculate object, and it's going to have 5 values. The key of each value is going to be an operator, and then we're going to pass in our first and second number that is then going to be run through a function with the corresponding operator. So let's create it. That'll be maybe a little bit easier to understand. First, we're going to comment out a title, calculate first and second values depending on operator, and we're going to create a constant called calculate, and that's going to be equal to curly brackets, and then we'll make it an object. We're going to add a semicolon here at the bottom, and then we're going to start writing them out. So first, we're going to have single quotes and then slash. So we want to do our division and multiplication first because we want our order of operations to be intact. And then we're going to have a colon. So this will denote the end of our key. So our key is just the string of our slash. And then in brackets, we're going to pass in the first number, comma, and then the second number. So we're going to pass this from our operator function. Then we're going to use an arrow function, and we are going to have the first number be divided by the second number, comma. And then we're going to use this to then populate a constant within our operator, and then we'll pass that to the display. So first, we need to create the rest of these. We're going to just copy this And we'll space it out just to make it a little easier to see. So we have 5 total operators, and we can actually use our multi-select to change these up. And I'm going to use my Command D, Control D, whichever one you need to use. And I'm going to change this one to our multiplication, which is our asterisk. And then I'm going to do the same thing for this. I'm going to change it to a plus sign. Then I'm going to change this one to minus sign. And then lastly, this one is going to be our equal sign. But instead of actually running a calculation, we don't want to do anything. So we just want to show the second number, which is actually going to be the current value, whatever it is. Okay, that's cool. Now we need to actually create the constant and assign the value within our operator function. So right below our console log in our else statement here, we're going to create another constant, and this is going to be called calculation. So this is actually going to store the result of our calculate object. And then this is going to equal to calculate. And then we're going to use square brackets to assign a key. And we're going to use the operator value that we just saw in our console log just now. And in brackets, we're going to pass in our 2 parameters, which is going to be our first value, comma, and then our current value. And then semicolon. And let's just add a console log. And we'll use single quote to show that this is our calculation constant. And then we'll pass in our calculation constant. And then a semicolon. And we are now ready to finally check it out. So let's save that and jump back over. So now we're going to do something simple. We're just going to do 1 plus 4 equals. So we can see that we have our first value, our operator, and our second value. And we can see that we have the result of 5. So 1 plus 4 is 5. Awesome. So our calculation is working. Let's just try another one to make sure that it is working for everything. Let's do 9 times 2 equals, okay, so you see we have our asterisk plugged in here, and we have our calculation result, which is 18. All right, excellent. But let's say that we wanted to actually just keep stringing calculations together. So we would want to be able to maintain our 18 value, and let's say we wanted to just add 3 to that value and equal, we would want the calculation to return 21. But we can see here that it does not. It has a value of 3 instead. So we want to be able to fix that. Let's go back to the code and try to figure that out. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to actually just set the value of the first value to be the calculation value when it is done. So below this, we'll just assign first value equals calculation. And we can save that now and check it out. So let's do our 3 plus 2 equals 5. And then we should be able to subtract from 5. So we'll subtract 2. So our calculation value. Okay, so we see that we have a problem here. So the calculation should have returned 3. 5 minus 2 equals 3. But we can see that we actually don't have the minus operator here. We have the equal operator. So we actually made a bit of a mistake earlier in this video. Instead of assigning this just to return, we actually do need to set the operator value again. So that will allow us to change our mind when we're entering in an operator value. So we're going to create a curly bracket there and a curly bracket there. And then above our return statement, we will still reset the operator value to be whatever the current operator is. So we can save that now and jump back and check it out. So how this will work is, so let's do 5 plus 1 equals 6. And then we want to keep going from this calculation of 6. So we want to minus 2. So our calculation should be 4. Okay, so that's working now. Perfect. And this also prevents another issue that could possibly happen, which is if I do 5 and then I change my mind, instead of subtracting from 5, I want to add to 5. So I'm going to switch to plus, and then I'm going to have 2, and then our calculation value should now be 7. And it is. So you see that it did not store the minus operator, and when I changed my mind, it just stored the last operator that I added in there. All right, perfect. So our calculation function is now working correctly. The last thing we need to do is actually update the display to show the result of our calculation. So let's go back and take care of that. We can also get rid of these console logs now that we know that everything is working here. And we'll get rid of that. And right here, we're going to update the calculator display text content to be equal to the result of the calculation. So we can save that and check it out. So let's just run through everything one more time here. So we can enter multiple decimals. So we'll start with 8, and we can see we cannot enter more than 1 decimal. Excellent. And we can do now plus 2 equals, and perfect, we have the result of our calculation here. Awesome. Next, let's try typing in a really long number. And we can see that eventually our scroll bar will materialize. Okay, that's excellent. All right. So it seems like everything is now working exactly as it should. That is excellent. So one thing I'm going to change for the final version is I'm going to add back my gradient background. Of course, in your project, you can use different gradients, different backgrounds. You can use different colors for the buttons. You can customize it however you want to. And if you're feeling really ambitious, you could actually add functionality to the calculator. This is a very basic version of a calculator, but if you wanted to, you could add a lot more features. There's a lot of different articles online about calculator functionality. And if you do end up updating the project, feel free to share it in the course, and I'll try to share it with everybody. All right, so that's it for this project. I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.